Before we begin, pause for just a second. If you want stories like this to keep finding you, then like and hit the subscribe button. And leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, turn the lights down, stay very still, and let the shadows take over. You grow up believing you're an only child. No siblings, no shared memories, just you. But what if that wasn't true? What if someone erased your sister, but forgot to erase her memories of you? They say dolls are harmless, just toys. But what if a doll isn't pretending to be alive? What if it's pretending to be gone? Because some siblings don't die, they wait. And tonight, she's done waiting. I grew up believing something very simple. I was an only child. No brothers, no sisters, no one to share a room with, no one to blame when something went missing, no one to whisper secrets to in the dark. It was just me. My parents told me that story so many times that it hardened into fact. Family trees for school projects stopped at my name. Photo albums showed only one crib, one toddler, one small figure growing taller each year. But even as a kid, something about the house disagreed. We lived in a two-story place at the edge of town, the kind of home realtors describe as quiet when they mean isolated. Tall trees crowded the yard. At night, their branches scraped the siding like fingernails searching for a grip. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway. That mattered more than I realized. From as early as I can remember, I hated sleeping with my door closed. Not because of the dark, but because of the silence. When the door was shut, the house felt fuller, like the air itself was being shared with something unseen. With the door open, I could hear my parents' TV murmuring downstairs, the refrigerator humming, proof that I wasn't alone. Except sometimes, even with the door open, I heard breathing. It didn't come from my parents' room. It came from the hallway, soft, careful, like someone trying not to be noticed. Whenever I asked about it, my mom smiled too quickly. "Old houses make noises," she'd say. My dad would add, "You've got a big imagination." They never checked the hallway. I learned early not to ask twice. There were other things too. Little things. The kind adults dismiss without thinking. I would wake up with fingerprints on my mirror, small and smeared, like someone had pressed their hands there in the night. When I asked about them, my mom said I must have touched the glass in my sleep. Sometimes my toys would be rearranged. Dolls lined up neatly instead of tossed in a pile. Stuffed animals turned to face the wall as if they'd been told not to look. Once, when I was 7, I found a crayon drawing shoved behind my dresser. 2 stick figures. Both girls. One had her hair colored in carefully. The other was just an outline. I asked my parents if I'd drawn it. My dad took the paper, stared at it for a little too long, then threw it away. "Just a doodle," he said. I didn't draw stick figures anymore by then. The worst moments came at night. I'd lie in bed, staring at the faint glow under my door, and feel the unmistakable sense of being watched. Not threatened. Not scared. Observed. Like I was part of something unfinished. Sometimes I'd whisper into the darkness, "Hello." Once, very quietly, something whispered back, my name. I screamed that time. My parents rushed in, lights blazing, concern painted perfectly on their faces. "What happened?" my mom asked, gripping my shoulders. "There was someone," I said. "In the hallway." My dad checked every room. Closets, bathroom, front and back doors. Nothing. That night, my mom slept on the floor beside my bed. I remember her holding my hand tighter than necessary, like she was afraid I might slip away. Years passed. The house never changed, but I did. The breathing stopped. The toys stayed where I left them. The feeling of being watched faded into something dull and familiar, like a memory you can't quite place. By the time I was 12, I'd convinced myself I'd imagined it all. That's when my grandmother died. We went to her house to sort through her things. Dusty shelves, cardboard boxes filled with the debris of decades, I was digging through a closet when I found a box shoved all the way to the back. Inside was a doll. It was old, porcelain face, cracked lips, glass eyes clouded with age. I don't know why, but my stomach dropped the second I saw it. The doll's hair was dark, long pulled back with a ribbon that had once been pink. His dress was handmade, and its face looked wrong. Not because it was creepy, because it was familiar. I picked it up slowly, my hands shaking. The eyes were the same color as mine. The nose, the shape of the mouth, even the tiny chip near the left cheek mirrored a scar I had from falling off my bike when I was 5. My grandmother had never met me as a baby. So why did this doll look like me? I carried it into the living room. Where did this come from? I asked. My parents froze. Not startled, not confused, frozen. My mom's face drained of color. My dad swallowed hard like he was bracing himself. That doesn't belong to you, my mother said softly. I held the doll tighter. It looks like me. My dad stood up. Put it back. Why? I asked. No one answered. That night, I dreamed of the hallway again. The door at the end, the one that had always been locked, was open, and someone was standing inside my room holding a doll with my face, smiling like she'd finally come home. I didn't sleep after that dream. Not really. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the image of the open door, the girl standing there, the way she smiled like she belonged. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like something was inches from my face, studying me. When morning finally came, I went straight to the guest room where my parents had placed the doll. It was gone. Not missing. Moved. The doll sat upright on the chair by the window, legs crossed neatly, hands folded in her lap, facing the door, waiting. My stomach twisted. I hadn't touched it. Neither had my parents. I knew that without asking. There was something deliberate about the way it sat, like it wanted to be seen. I backed away slowly. That was when I noticed the ribbon in its hair. It was new, bright pink, clean. The ribbon from my childhood keepsake box, the one my mom said we lost during a move. I ran downstairs. Did you touch the doll? I asked, my voice shaking. My mother was washing dishes. Her hands paused mid-motion. No, she said. My dad didn't even look up from his coffee. We told you not to mess with it. I didn't, I said. But someone did. That was the moment I realized something worse than fear had settled in. They weren't confused. They weren't scared. They were avoiding. That afternoon, while my parents were out grocery shopping, I searched the house. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof. Was. Anything that explained why a doll with my face existed before I was born. I started in the hallway. The locked door at the end, the one that had always been off limits, stood out like a bruise. I'd never seen it open. Never even seen the key. But now the lock was scratched. Fresh marks. Like someone had tried to force it open from the inside. I pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. No breathing. No movement. Still, my chest tightened like something was holding its breath with me. I turned away. That's when I heard it. A soft sound behind me. Fabric shifting. I spun around. The doll stood in the hallway. Standing. Porcelain feet planted on the carpet, head tilted slightly to the side. The chair it had been sitting on was still upstairs. I couldn't move. My brain screamed that it wasn't possible, that gravity and logic and reality didn't work that way. But the doll was closer than before. Its glass eyes caught the light differently now. Warmer. Focused. Then its mouth moved. Not much. Just enough. I was cold, it whispered. The voice was small. Young. And exactly like mine. I don't remember screaming. I remember falling. Crawling backward until my spine hit the wall. The doll took one careful step forward. I stayed where they told me, it said. I waited. My ears rang. My vision blurred. "What are you?" I whispered. The doll smiled wider than porcelain should allow. "I'm your sister." The front door slammed open downstairs. The doll's head snapped toward the sound. Its body stiffened like a child caught misbehaving. In a blink it was gone. When my parents rushed upstairs, they found me curled on the floor, shaking so badly I couldn't speak. That night they finally told me part of the truth. There had been another girl, my twin, born minutes before me. "She wasn't right," my mother whispered, tears streaking her face. "She didn't breathe. They said she never would." My dad clenched his fists. "We buried her before you came home." I stared at them. "Then why does she talk?" I asked. Silence swallowed the room. That's when my mom said the sentence that still makes my blood run cold. "We didn't bury everything." That night I woke to something climbing into my bed. Small hands, cold fingers, familiar breathing, and a whisper against my ear. "They lied," my sister said, "and I'm tired of being alone." I didn't tell my parents about the whisper. I didn't tell them about the weight on the bed, the cold fingers, the way the voice sounded exactly like mine but older somehow, like it had been waiting. I pretended nothing happened, because deep down I knew something worse than fear had settled into the house. Something patient. The next morning my mother called in sick to work. She hovered, watched me too closely. Every time I passed the hallway, her eyes followed me like she was counting steps. The locked door at the end of the hall felt louder now. Not physically, mentally. Like it was pulling my attention toward it every time I tried to focus on anything else. By afternoon, I noticed something new. The scratches on the door were deeper, longer, fresh. I stood there staring, my hand hovering inches from the knob. "She doesn't like that door," a voice said softly behind me. I turned. The doll sat on the floor at the end of the hallway, legs stretched out, back against the wall like a child who'd been sent to time out. "Who?" I asked. "My name," it said. "You're allowed to know now." My throat went dry. "What is it?" The doll's smile faded. "They stopped calling me by it." A sound echoed from inside the locked room. A dull thump. Then another. Slow. Deliberate. Like something testing the walls. I ran. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping on the front porch. The cold air burned my lungs, but it grounded me enough to think. I needed proof. That night, after my parents went to bed, I did something I'd never done before. I went into their room. I searched drawers, closets, under the bed. That's when I found the key. It was taped to the underside of my father's nightstand. My hands shook as I carried it down the hallway. The house felt wrong at night. Every step echoed too loudly. The air felt thicker near the locked door, heavier, like humidity before a storm. I slid the key into the lock. It resisted, then turned. The door opened an inch. Warm air spilled out. The smell hit me first. Old fabric. Dust. Something sweet underneath, and rotten. I pushed the door wider. The room wasn't a bedroom. It was a nursery. Or at least it had been. A small bed sat against the wall. Too small for an adult. The mattress was discolored, sunken in the center like something had slept there for years. The walls were covered in crayon drawings. Stick figures. Two little girls holding hands. Over and over. On a shelf sat dozens of dolls. Not identical. Similar. Each one looked like me at different ages. Some were cracked. Some missing eyes. Some had their mouths stitched shut. In the corner stood a mirror. Tall. Covered with fingerprints. From the inside. My reflection stared back at me, pale and shaking. Then it blinked. I didn't. The reflection smiled. And stepped forward. The glass rippled like water. Hands pressed against it from the other side. "I was lonely," my sister said, her voice echoing inside my skull. "They kept me here when you grew." The mirror cracked. I stumbled backward, slamming into the shelf. Dolls tumbled to the floor, porcelain shattering like bones. The door slammed shut behind me. The lights flickered. And from the darkness, something stood up from the small bed. Not the doll. Not fully human. Long limbs unfolded slowly, joints popping softly. Hair hung in uneven strands around a face that looked almost like mine, except the eyes were too deep, too old. "You got everything," she whispered. "I got the walls." I screamed. The door burst open. My parents rushed in. My father grabbed me. My mother dropped to her knees, sobbing. "Close it," my dad shouted. "Don't let her finish." The thing smiled wider. "She knows now," it said. "You promised." My mother screamed my name, and the lights went out. The lights came back on slowly. My eyes burned from the sudden glare, and I could barely make out my parents' faces. They were pale, hollow, as if they'd aged decades in seconds. The thing, my sister or whatever she had become, was gone. But the air still carried her. A presence, a weight pressing down on my chest. My mother's voice shook. I didn't want this. We didn't know." I realized then that they had been hiding something my entire life. Something terrible. "Hide," I whispered. "You hid her from me?" My father nodded, eyes darting to the locked nursery door. "It wasn't safe. She wasn't supposed to be free. We promised." "Promised to who?" I demanded. He hesitated, then spoke in a low, trembling voice. "To them. The people who made her. When she was born, they said she had to stay inside that room. We were warned what would happen if we let her out." I swallowed hard. What would happen? My mother's lips quivered. "If she's freed, she takes what's hers. And she doesn't stop until she's complete." I realized what she meant. All the dolls, all the mirrors, every single one was a fragment of her, pieces of her stolen back to that cursed room. And now that I had opened it, she was awake. The doll from the hallway appeared suddenly, sitting on the floor again. Its eyes glinted under the dim light, matching mine exactly. But there was something different, smarter, hungrier. "She knows you saw," it whispered. "And now, she wants you." My father ran to the hall, but the nursery door slammed itself shut, harder than I thought possible. The walls rattled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Shadows twisted inside the cracks like liquid. I tried to run, but the air thickened. My breaths came in shallow gasps. A whisper, "Mine? Hers?" echoed in my head. Stay, don't leave, or I will come for you." I screamed, pounding on the door. My father joined me. We tried every key, every handle. Nothing worked. Then a sound, a soft, metallic click. The dolls in the nursery began to move, one by one. They didn't fall. They didn't clatter. They walked, slowly, dragging their cracked little feet across the floor. Their smiles widened unnaturally, the painted eyes glinting in the darkness. The doll in the hall laughed. A soft, cold laugh. "She's testing you," it said. "She remembers what it feels like to be free." My mother grabbed me. "We have to leave. Now." As we bolted for the front door, the house seemed to stretch, the hallways longer than they should have been. I could feel her following, watching, waiting. The whispers never stopped. My sister's voice mixed with mine, overlapping, echoing, tormenting. Outside, the street was empty. The moon hung pale in the sky. The air smelled like decay. I turned back once. The windows of the house flickered, shadows moving as if the walls themselves were breathing. "She's not done," the doll said one last time, voice barely audible. "You opened the room. You promised to play." And then it was gone. I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. We didn't go back to the house. That's what my parents told the police. A gas leak. Structural damage. Unsafe to enter. The place was boarded up within a week. Yellow tape wrapped around it like a warning no one else could read. But houses don't stay quiet just because you abandon them. The whispers followed us. At night, I'd hear my name spoken in my own voice right beside my ear. I stopped sleeping in mirrors' reach. I covered them with towels, blankets, anything. Still, sometimes I'd catch my reflection smiling a fraction of a second too late. My parents stopped pretending everything was fine. They barely slept. My father started drinking again. My mother cried in the bathroom, locking the door like something might try to come in if she didn't. One night, I overheard them talking. "She's getting stronger," my mother whispered. "We should have never let her keep the doll," my father said. My stomach dropped. "Keep the doll?" I stepped into the hallway. "What do you mean, keep?" They froze. My mother turned slowly, eyes red. "You were never supposed to remember her." "Remember who?" I asked, though I already knew. My father sank into a chair. "You weren't an only child," he said. "But you weren't the second one either." The room felt colder. "They told us there were two," my mother said. "Twins. But something went wrong. One of you was wrong. Not sick. Not broken. Just empty in places people shouldn't be." My chest tightened. "So you locked her away?" My mother shook her head, tears spilling. "No. We locked you away first." The words didn't make sense. Not at first. My father continued, voice hollow. "You wouldn't sleep. You wouldn't cry. You just stared. At reflections. At corners. At her. She was afraid of you." My heart pounded. "That's not true." My mother sobbed. "The doctor said one of you had to go. They said the other would fade. So we chose the one who smiled. The one who laughed. We chose her." My memory started to fracture. The nursery wasn't a prison. It was a mirror. The dolls weren't watching me. They were watching her. I backed away. Then who am I? The lights flickered. A familiar laugh echoed through the house. Soft. Delighted. "Oh," the voice said from everywhere at once. "You're the one they couldn't get rid of." The air rippled. The hallway stretched just like before. And then I saw her, no longer trapped, no longer stitched together with porcelain and paint. She stood whole now. Perfect. My face. My smile. But older. Sharper. Real. "You opened the door for me," she said gently. "You gave me pieces. Dolls. Memories. Fear." Her eyes glowed faintly. "You helped me finish becoming real." My parents screamed. She didn't even look at them. "They chose wrong," she whispered. "And now so will you." The mirrors shattered. The world folded inward. When the police arrived the next morning, they found my parents. Alone. They said their daughter vanished in the night. They asked me questions. I answered calmly, sweetly. "After all, I'm the good one." And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I see her in the reflection behind me, smiling, waiting for her turn to come out again.